Welcome back to Fat Packs, guys. In today's video, we're doing a full product run through of our Beasty Bug Jr. Okay, so our Beasty Bug Jr. is by far one of our top selling finesse craws. This is a 2.8 inch perfect Ned rig sized craw that's got a very, I would say, a very thick body. You can shove in nail weights, you can shove in worm rattles, any kind of extra add-on that you want to add some attractant from a sound perspective or weight. If you want like an echo style, you can add into the body. It gives you tons of thickness. Then when you move down into the craw's claws, you actually have what I would call, these are flanges. So if you have enough of a fall rate on that weight, say you're using 1/4 ounce or higher, these will flap in the water column erratically, putting off more action, attracting the bass and triggering their lateral line. Now if you go lighter, what we've found, if you're into that I would say 1/8 or lighter, you won't necessarily get that flapping of the claws. It does need a very much of a strong shoot through the water column to get those claws to flap. So and then moving into basically like our color selection. So this is natural green pumpkin brown, which by far is our #1 seller. It's actually a fuse of green pumpkin, brown, gold flake, black flake, all kinds of flake. And instead of laminating it, we actually blended it and weaved the colors to give you this look. So we got so many other colors we want to do in this, but it's so popular that we can barely keep up with the orders on this color. So moving into the next color, we have watermelon red. This as well is just a hot staple color in bass fishing. You have to offer this. It's kind of a go-to. Watermelon works great. You got a little red flake in there and it'll attract the bass even more. Then moving into another classic, which would be our green pumpkin black flake. You got to have that. That one's just a go-to. If you ever want to throw a color and you're unsure about a bait, go with green pumpkin black flake. Then moving into more of spring colors, red. We have right here what we call our, this is our Mad Hatter swirl color. So it's a blend of black and red on the bottom and the top side. And they're all kind of weaved and blended together, which is a great craw to throw around in the springtime, as we know red works so well. And then what we did is, actually that last one was, Then what we did is Mad Hatter swirl again. We actually have the laminate. I think that, this one was actually the laminate. It's actually the red on the bottom, then the black on the top. This one is the Mad Hatter swirl, which actually it does that fuse and that blend of black and red all over the place. So two great red options. Then moving into just straight up what we call our Texas craw. So this sucker, if you look at any craws that come out of Texas that are red, they have this look, and we basically were trying to mimic that. So this is just straight red, more of a tomatoey beet red, and with black flake integrated. So another good springtime color. And then we have a real unique one that we thought of. So this is actually called Smallie Candy. For those of you who are up north, and we know how smallies are attracted to chartreuse, bright colors, oranges, hot greens, hot yellows. For whatever reason, they love those colors. We give you Smallie Candy, which blends basically like a reddish top, fluorescent reddish top with that hot fluorescent yellow bottom. So that's that color. And then say you're fishing murkier water and you need something that really pops. We got what we call our Gentleman's Club. So this is like a purple flake with a black dye. And so obviously black is good everywhere, but particularly in muddy water, it can really shine when you're talking, a foot or less of visibility. Black can be a really good option to stand out. And then moving on to natural brown craw. This sucker just sells. I mean, we can't keep this in stock. We run out of this so often that we're basically just constantly shooting this color. And what it is we basically just mimicked the top side of a brown craw. We took a bunch of pictures online of a realistic craw and just went down to the minute detail on all the flake and what made it kind of weird, unique, from the flake perspective as well as the brown perspective, and made that top. But then if you look at a craw, the bottom side isn't brown. It's fleshy colored, right? Because it's their underbelly. And so we went with that fleshy undertone, which is that black and flesh kind of interweaved on the bottom, giving you a supernatural looking craw in a perfect bite-sized morsel. Though these suckers sell nonstop. If you're a smallmouth fisherman, we go to the Black River twice a year over here in Arizona. It's a biannual trip, and we use these exclusively. Throw them upstream on one of our toadstool net heads, pick like an 1/8 ounce on the brown color, and throw them upstream, and just let your jig head just bounce on the rocks coming back, and they just nail them. I mean, the smallies will just pick these things up. So a great option. We love those things. Then if you're someone that's down in Florida, or you like that bluish kind of tone to your craw, we call our Florida black and blue, which is that blacker top with then that more of that blue craw bottom with some silver integrated there. So that's your Florida black and blue. And then we got one we call Great Lakes Craw. So this one was the original color match was from someone that fishes up there in the Michigan area in those Great Lakes. And they did really well on more of a, the water up there is clear. I mean, it's usually 10-foot viz in many areas, and so you don't want such a bold looking craw. So this is a little more subtle in its coloration with the watermelon. That's a little lighter on the top side, and then we really went light on that blue on the bottom side. So that's our Great Lakes Craw. And then we got a real staple here, which is Pick Your Poison. So a lot of people love this one too, because it's basically like a black and blue on the top. I'm trying to get that in the light. And then you got your green pumpkin, green and red on the bottom side. So black and blue, yeah, and then your green pumpkin. So basically pick your poison, choose what you want to show them. I think the fusion of black and blue with, well, this is actually more blue and black, I should say. Blue and black and the green pumpkin is becoming really popular in soft plastics, the best of both worlds. And so then the last two I wanted to show in the color line are green pumpkin blue flake, another killer. Man, this kills in Arizona. This is such a hot color down here. But anything green pumpkin and whatever flake is good. So there's that color. And then last but not least is what we call, which is called candy grass. And so these ones are great around grass. They're great around where you got a lot of vegetation. Maybe you're wanting to flip something into grass or whatever. This color blends in well, and it's kind of basically the same color top and bottom. It's that green pumpkin tone, and then we put in some green flake top and bottom, just differing amounts. So real natural looking green craw there. So, and that covers the color line for you guys. All right, so when it comes to rigging our Beasty Bug Juniors, there's a slew of ways to rig these things. We've found about 3 or 4 ways that really shine and bring out the true potential in the Beasty Bug Jr. The first one we're going to show you guys is a classic Texas rig. You got to talk about this, right? So what we have on here is we actually have a 1/8 ounce tungsten pegged with our natural brown craw to I believe this is a 3/0. A 2 or 3/0 size EWG is perfect. If you go 3/0, you'll end up piercing right there near the head, which we like, because when that fish comes up, you get them. They're biting right where the hook is. It's not like the hook's way up here halfway on the body, and then when they bite the claws, you miss them. So you get, with a 3/0, you get it right perfect there near the head. So we prefer that. Like I said, it's a 1/8 ounce, pegged if you're throwing it into heavy cover so that you're not struggling to get it out. But if you're not in heavy cover and you're more like dragging it on rocks, move that bobber stopper up, give yourself, a leader there, which this is about, 8 inches or so, and you have some play. So that way when you drag that bait over the rocks, the weight falls over the rock and the bait comes gracefully behind it, like a Carolina rig, right? Kind of like that. And it'll just fall and just gracefully rest on the bottom. So that's one of our, the primary ways to fish it that we love doing it is on just a very finesse styled Texas rig. Okay, so for our next rigging technique, guys, you gotta talk about the classic toadstool Ned heads on these things. You know, when you come to finesse fishing, you come to small 2.8 size stuff, a Ned head, our toadstool Ned heads are hard to beat. And we give you a variety of colors. I have this paired up on this is actually a 5/32 aught head here right now, powder coated and all, so it's no chip. And therefore you can fish this all day in all the rocks you want, and this will still look just as brown and perfect as it did in the beginning. And obviously, as you can see on our toadstool Ned head, our 2.8-inch natural brown craw Beasty Bug Jr. pairs up perfectly on that. And I believe this is a 1/0 or size 1 hook. So you got to consider the Ned head as well as an excellent rigging choice for our Beasty Bug Juniors. Okay, so for our next technique, guys, this would be our third technique. We wanted to show the Neko rig. This is probably the #1 technique we use when we're fishing these. So what you're gonna have is you're gonna have your tungsten weight or any kind of nail weight that you want to put into the bottom. And we prefer one that you don't want to go in all the way. You want to go in so that the weight is actually showing there on the end. And we prefer this. This is actually, what is this? 5/64. Pretty light if you can. The lighter you can get away with generally with all our baits and any fishing, the better you are, because it creates more of a natural flowing look in the water column for that bait. So we always start light and we go heavier as the need arises, or there's wind or the conditions call for it. So insert that nail weight or that tungsten weight and make sure it's appearing, because when you're popping this along down over rock, you want that head clicking, click, 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 click as it's tapping the rocks, to tungsten preferred. You're going to attract more bass. They're going to come over to it and they're going to see it, and you're going to potentially get more bites. It'll up your bite rate. And then on top of that, basically, you know, you're just looking for any type of Neko 1/0, 2/0 style hook, and then an O-ring. And then we rig them always under the O-ring and out, as you can see right there. So that's the Neko rig. All right, so the next rig we're going to show you guys is the free rig, right? Which is a super popular rig. It's catching a lot of steam here in the United States. And it allows you to move the bait vertically up and down freely. Now, the traditional way of rigging a free rig is generally the weight is actually above the hook. Okay, so we actually do a reverse free rig. And what we found with this that we like about it is when you cast this thing out, right, and it lands, hits the water, and then drops, what happens is with your bait, when your bait is above like this and it's free, and this Beasty Bug Jr. is sitting free above, the weight will shoot down, but then the Beasty Bug Jr. slowly kind of goes down. Okay, and so you may get a bite on that fall, and you have to be watching for that. But we love this because say you're fishing into brush, heavy cover, you're fishing into anything where there's a lot of downward cover that the weight would go through. Well, with this being free, what happens is it can make it difficult to get the bait through the heavy cover depending on how thick it is. So we wouldn't fish this like in slop or mats or anything. You'd be thinking more like trees or flooded brush. But what's cool is it allows you to kind of work the bait down through that cover, and the bass will kind of see it moving down through the cover, scurrying down. And that's something that they just don't see a lot of. So a free rig is one that we've been using this quite a bit on and seeing a lot of success. So consider this as well for alternative options for rigging. So we're not going to go into all the other ones there. We just highlighted 4 different ones here which we thought were good, and then the free rig being the outlier among the other 3 that are popular with the Texas, the Ned, and the Neko. But Carolina rigging's great. Split shotting on these is good. Shaky head fishing's good. You can even put them on the back of chatterbait trailers if you wanted. There's tons of options out there, and we list all those down in the video description below on the website. Okay, so rod, reel, and line for rigging our Beasty Bug Juniors and throwing them out. So For us, it's a finesse technique, right? It's a small 2.8 inch size bait. It really, you can't horse these things, you know, on heavy line. So we either go with a 6 to 7 foot medium to medium light action with a fast tip spinning rod, paired up with usually some type of 2500 series or even 1500 series spinning reel. And then we go down to 12-pound braid or lower. And if you can get away with it, go down to 6 or even 4. If you can go down to 4-pound braid, 4-pound fluoro as your leader, you're going to get way more bites. We've found the lighter the line, we found we get more bites. The idea behind that is when the bait is in the water column and it's doing its thing, the lighter the line you have, the less the line inhibits the bait's movement. So if you were to think about it, if you put 50-pound braid directly to one of these Beasty Bug Juniors on a hook, it's going to be stiff, tight, and it's not going to get much action, right? But if you go, you know, so that's as a comparison. So 12-pound braid to a 6 or even less fluorocarbon leader for your spinning rig option. Okay, so another option you guys have when it comes to rod, reel, line is using BFS gear, which is Bait Finesse System. This is a whole new thing that's starting to make waves in the US, and we're going to start seeing this catch on in years to come. But it's basically allowing you to throw super light finesse techniques on bait casting gear, and it's beautiful. We've been working and testing out our Beasty Bug Juniors on this kind of gear, and we love it. It's such a game changer over spinning gear. The feel, the action, the whole movement, how you catch them, how you reel in them, it's a whole new experience, and you'll love it. It's such a game changer. So what we have here is there's limited availability on this kind of gear. If you go get it, you got to go to eBay. You got to go sometimes over to Japan. We actually had to go on eBay to Japan to get the Shimano SLX BFS XG. And so we took this with paired up with 12-pound braid to 4-pound fluoro, right, to a 1/8 ounce tungsten to our Beasty Bug Jr. And then the rod that we use is Dobbins has a whole series of BFS type rods. You can see the model right there. Make a note of that. But it's basically, this is a 6.5 light, modern action, extra fast tip. And it's just, this whole rig is so light, it's featherweight. You won't believe it. And it just changes the way you fish our light Beasty Bug Jr. So check out BFS style gear with all of our Finesse soft plastic. All right, now we're on to the tank test, guys. The first one we're going to be doing is we're going to do our toadstool net head. It's a 5/32 ounce toadstool net head on our Beasty Bug Jr. And here's the drop. This would be the cast into the water to give you the look of what how the bait is observed as it falls into the water column. And as you can see there, the claws totally, the flanged claws allowed them to rapidly flap as the bait was moved down through the water column, and then as it hit the bottom, it was rested perfectly, as you saw there. And so then just as slowly, if I was just using this like a traditional Ned head, I would just slowly be kind of bouncing it, jigging it along, and you can watch and look at those claws. They float perfectly up in the air, giving you guys a full demonstration that we have floating claws even at a small shop level. So that's the beauty of pretty much a lot of our soft plastics, is we do offer that floating option. So as I jig it along, you can see the claws have even with the slightest twitch, they even have movement. So the plastic that we use has super high action, allowing those fish to see that this thing looks like it's the real deal. Okay, so for our next one, we're going to be demonstrating how our Beasty Bug Jr. looks on a free rig. And as I told you guys, we do it in the reverse way. So what's going to happen here is you're going to see the bait, as the weight shoots to the bottom, you'll see the Beasty Bug slowly fall. And here is the cast. You can kind of see as that thing slowly falls, they may hit that on the fall, and we really like that. If you really pop it up, it also has that real airy kind of water column look. And so we have found that this technique as a reverse free rig is actually really effective and something they don't get to see a lot. And just that natural, free-falling look of the bait is hard for them to resist. All right, guys, so next up is the Neko rig. So here is the toss into the water. As you can see, had those claws, those flanged claws fluttering, and then as it hit, it immediately just stood right up. Now, as I slowly jig this thing, you can kind of get a good idea how the Neko rig presents that thing in a beautiful way. And what we love about the Neko rig is it doesn't get hung up as much as Ned rig type fishing. The toadstool Ned heads or any Ned rig type jig head, they really get hung up in rocks. But Neko type rigging doesn't. These things tend to come through all that. So as you can see, I'm just popping this slowly. Those claws are up in the air, floating, and it just looks super natural and just like that craw's in that defensive state. Okay, so last but definitely not least is our Finesse Texas rig on our Beasty Bug Jr. And here I'm tossing that in. As you can see, there's the fall. And then if I just started to slowly work this thing along the bottom, like you would at any type of traditional Texas rig. I would say that in terms of the action on a Texas rig, the only thing I don't like about it is it does cause the bait to kind of have like that sideways look because of how the hook is. Now, like right there, you can see it popped up in that defensive stance because it hit the right rock. But many times with the Texas rig, you have that sideways look on the bait. So most of the time we fish these Neko because we just like the way the profile is. But if you need something weedless, definitely a Texas is a good option. Last but not least, guys, remember, we offer 10s, 20s, and remember, in our fat bags, 250 count sizes. Because remember, we are Fat Packs. Tight lines, my friends.